Appreciate the opportunity to share for a few minutes today. Congressman Davis and I have been working on this since he came into office, and we're here to talk about the need for a funding mechanism for mega projects of national significance. The Brent Spence Bridge Project is the interstate highway bridge that crosses the Ohio River between Cincinnati and northern Kentucky, between our two districts. It's nationally significant as an infrastructure corridor that's critical to our economy. Congress, as we all know, many of us have been part of this discussion, has repeatedly discussed the need to make serious investments in our national infrastructure, and the 2009 Highway Bill presents a significant opportunity to fulfill that need. Through this process, Congress must find a new way to manage mega projects of national significance, and as you know, funding for these projects is a matter of great concern to Chairman Oberstar and Ranking Member Mica, and I commend them for their vision of developing a national process or rational process whereby projects of national significance will be objectively identified and funded based on merit with national infrastructure corridors. Despite these attempts in the past, Congress has not established a sufficient mechanism for funding mega projects whose benefits are national, but whose costs are so high that they can't be funded by one or two states. The Brent Spence Bridge Project will ultimately cost between $2 and $3 billion to complete. However, when we compare that to more than $417 billion annually that the bridge carries for our economy and Congress, the cost is clearly justified. However, Ohio and Kentucky would both have to dedicate their entire state transportation budgets for over a year in spite of everything else to accomplish this project. Major transportation bottlenecks cause thousands of hours of delay and have a negative impact on individual travelers, commuters, families, truckers, shippers, and receivers, particularly when the routes they travel are hostage to underfunded infrastructure nodes. I think the chairman had a poignant example of the cost and jobs to United Parcel Service for each 5 minutes of delay. And we can multiply this thousands and thousands and thousands of times over for revenue that's lost, ultimately for job creation. The Woodrow Wilson Bridge between Maryland and Virginia, just southeast of downtown Washington, D.C., is traveled daily by some in the room today. In 1993, 200,000 vehicles crossed that bridge each day. The Wilson Bridge carries Interstate 95 and 495 across the Potomac River. The bridge supports a transportation corridor of national significance connecting the southeastern and northeastern United States. At the time, the U.S. Department of Transportation estimated the value of the freight trucked across that bridge was the equivalent of 1.3% of the entire gross domestic product of the United States. By the mid-90s, the bridge was carrying 250% of the traffic volume for which it was designed. The bridge only had 3 lanes, but it carried 5 lanes worth of traffic trying to squeeze through. This became a bottleneck with national significance, causing tens of thousands of hours of delays to American travelers, but most of all to commerce. Neither Maryland nor Virginia could assume the $2.5 billion cost of the project, which was several times their annual statewide infrastructure budgets combined. Additionally, there was no federal program to fund projects of national significance. If Congress had not authorized special funding for the Wilson Bridge, funding that paid for the majority of the cost of the project, the Wilson Bridge may have come close to closure with economic impacts that would be felt far beyond the D.C. area throughout the eastern seaboard of the United States. Congress helped resolve that funding issue, and the Woodrow Wilson Bridge project was completed. However, resolution was cobbled together through exception rather than through cohesive strategic decision-making and prioritization. The 2009 Highway Bill needs to include a mechanism for dealing with major infrastructure projects with a national impact. The Brent Spence Bridge connects Kentucky to southwestern Ohio between my district and Congressman Driehaus's district in Cincinnati. This is a project I've personally been working on for nearly 5 years. However, the bridge also connects Canada to Florida via I-75 as well as Ohio to the western United States via I-71. It feeds traffic and freight into Chicago via I-74 and all the way to Alabama via I-65. This bridge affects commerce in over 60 congressional districts in Georgia, Florida, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, Michigan, Ohio, and Tennessee. It was designed to carry 80,000 vehicles per day and will soon have to accommodate nearly 200,000 vehicles per day. Indeed, this bridge is functionally obsolete. And it carries $417 billion in freight annually across the Ohio River for federal commerce. That's roughly 3% of the U.S. gross domestic product in 2008, or twice what the Wilson Bridge's carriage was in commerce daily. By 2030, the amount of that freight is expected to increase to $830 billion. In other words, This bridge is a critical piece of essential infrastructure to the American economy. In the next surface transportation bill, we'll have an opportunity to ensure that I-71, 74, and 75's corridors continue their role in our national transportation system by building a new bridge at their crucial intersection. The achievement of this goal would support or create 83,000 jobs permanently and save businesses and motorists approximately $784 million annually. The Brent Spence Bridge is but one example of a transportation mega project that's critical to the American economy. I urge all my colleagues to ensure the 2009 Highway Bill includes a program for dealing with nationally significant projects, and I thank you all for your time, and especially the Chairman for his interest in intervention in such national projects in the past. I yield back my time, Mr. Chairman.